Eastpointe City Council on Tuesday, February the 20th at 7 p.m. Please rise for the invocation given by Councilwoman Sarah Lucido. Remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Dear God, with the tragic event that happened last week in Parkland, Florida, let's all please take a moment to pray for the families of the students and staff at Stoneman Douglas High School. Help us to keep trying to find solutions for all of these ills. We are very grateful for all of the blessings that you have provided us. It is in your name we pray. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please call the roll.
Councilmember DeMonico.
Here.
Councilmember Lucido.
Here.
Councilmember Kleinfeld.
Here.
Councilmember Owens.
Here.
Mayor Pixley.
Here. Our first item is the approval of the agenda. Mr. DeMonico, did you want to add anything?
Yes, Madam Mayor, I'd like to add a presentation by GFL to the agenda. Wherever we'd immediately after approval of the agenda, I guess, is where we'd usually probably have it.
Right after what?
Right after we approve the agenda.
All right. Do we have a motion to approve the agenda with that added?
So moved.
We have support.
Support.
Please call the roll.
Councilmember Kleinfeld.
Yes.
Councilmember Lucido.
Yes.
Councilmember Owens.
Yes.
Mayor Pixley.
Yes.
Councilmember DeMonico.
Yes.
All right. With that, we'll ask GFL to come forward, and that would be Don Beretta and Mary Jo Van Atter.
Honorable Mayor, members of council, Don Beretta with GFL Environmental.
Mary Jo Van Atter with GFL Environmental.
We appreciate you asking us to come down tonight. We've been your solid waste provider since July 1st of 2013. So we're into our 5th year. So we're here to answer any questions that you may have and hopefully clear up anything that may be on your mind.
I'll go ahead, go first. I think probably a question on a lot of folks' mind. I just was interested to see what's being done at GFL to ensure that none of the issues with Rizzo are still going on, have been ended, that sort of thing.
Well, as everybody does know, that GFL Environmental out of Toronto, Canada, acquired Rizzo Environmental Services back on September 30th of last year. And then a couple of weeks after that had happened, it hit the papers that there was some issues with a couple of the officers of the company. Those people have not, those people have been gone about 30 days after the acquisition. The company has never been involved in anything, let alone accused of it. GFL is probably the largest solid waste and environmental provider in Canada. And a condition of our employment with them is that there are 3 policies that we have to review and sign off on each year. One is a code of conduct, a whistleblower, and anti-collusion. So we have all signed it the first time. We're in the process of doing it the second time. And I brought a copy I could leave with you folks if you would like to see it.
Okay.
But they do a little bit. They do business in Canada a little bit different than they do here. On residential contracts, for example, they are not allowed to talk to any of the city officials, which here, you know, it does happen occasionally, and they are not. They have like here we have the PACs where businesses can provide or donate to elected officials for their campaigns. That is not acceptable in Canada.
And here in our United States as well, right? We don't have any more.
GFL Environmental does not have a pact. It will not give any donations to anybody that's running for office.
Okay.
We'll be happy to contribute to like city for the like a park or a rec or something like that, or that's related to the city, if you have a fundraiser like that, then we can support your community, but no longer are we allowed to.
Okay.
We
That's-
are good corporate citizens with all the communities that we do business with. I think we have sponsored your Music in the Park in the summertime, and if, you folks need event boxes for your parade and stuff like that, I mean, we always are there to help out. So we'll feel we're part of your community, so, we feel that is an obligation that we fulfill, so.
And when you said a minute ago that the company hasn't been involved in any bribery issues, you meant GFL, of course, and not,
Yeah.
okay.
Well, even back then, the issues were with a couple of the people that were officers of the company. But Rizzo Environmental Services has never been accused of anything. So that they had nothing, the company itself had nothing to do with what had happened with a couple of the officers of the company. And GFL has not, no, they have not.
Okay. I mean, I think that's splitting hairs with Rizzo. I mean, he was the CEO of the company, so,
Believe
I
me.
mean,
We were shocked as we were the victims, and as that's honestly the truth. I mean, we didn't know that was going on by any shape, right? And so,
We were as surprised as everybody. Matter of fact, I was coming back from vacation with my wife when I had received a call from the DPS director in Sterling Heights. I said, "Did you see the paper?" And I said, "Well, no. I haven't looked at a paper in a week." And he said, "Well, you might want to look at it." So, I mean, we were very disappointed.
of course.
okay. Yeah, I was reviewing, our contract. Our contract ends with you at the end of June, as it is right now. So thank you for coming out. I,
Appreciate that.
figured it'd be good for everyone in the community and to hear from you since all this has been going on instead of waiting till closer to the end of the contract. And I just, in reviewing the contract, I noticed you mentioned the no collusion document that you had signed.
Yes.
That was in our contract with Rizzo, and so Chuck Rizzo had signed that in April 2013, and now he has pleaded guilty to bribery going back to 2012. So I don't want to, downplay this official document, but, this is what, I just want to bring that up
Yeah,
because
that's
obviously that's a very serious issue. Not that I don't trust you two, I just, I feel like you just need to have a conversation and just hear what's going on at the company now.
These are more comprehensive, and it covers everything from, from us being a good corporate citizen to any donations or anything like that. So these are a lot more comprehensive than the ones that we had over at Rizzo Environmental Services, so.
Okay. And then, so Chuck Rizzo Jr. and Sr. and folks like Quentin Ramanuskis and I'm not sure if I'm saying his name correctly, and Derek Hicks are not associated with the company anymore.
They have not been part of GFL. Probably, it was less than a month when they were all
Okay.
all gone.
And then, when we had a new executive vice president come in January, they did remain, Jeff Rizzo, who was not accused of anything, was our CEO until Patrick DeVigi decided to hire executive vice president. He's ran 5 states for waste management, and he came in, and then there is no Rizzo, no, any of that in our company left.
Okay.
Matter of fact, 2 of the people that you have mentioned are already in prison.
Yeah, well, Chuck went last week, I guess,
Yeah.
right? So, we never got called in. I know we were under surveillance with the FBI. I'm sure our lines were tapped, and Don and I, we never even,
No.
we never got even called in for an interview or anything. So obviously, we were,
If you listen to my phone conversations, you're gonna be bored.
but honestly, so it is embarrassing. Was I proud of the contracts I procured for the community, for our company? about 27 of them. I'm mainly Wayne County, Lincoln Park, Southgate, I can name them all. I was part of Detroit contract, yours, St. Clair Shores, East Roseville, Harrison Township. All of them were sealed bids, and that's what I did. I'm in municipal sales manager. And I asked these cities that were looking for revenue, their tax base was diminished, we can save you money. And so to have a sealed bid, everybody is playing on the same field. You open with the clerk like yourself, and those are, we were winning bids based on our lower number. And so I'm proud of our record. I mean, we've went from how many communities down, 5 to 65. And we're continuing in that, trying to help cities, and give them good service, equipment. A lot of the cities are looking for the toters like yours did to clean up the issues with rodents and things like that. So that's our motivation to keep going forward and continue to serve you.
Okay. Did anyone else have any questions?
Well, while you're here, I could ask just a couple. I don't know, it's sort of administrative, so I'm not sure if you know the answer. First, with the contracts in surrounding communities, do you know if you have MLK Day as a holiday?
Yes.
You do?
There's just a couple of them that have them.
And
One is the city of Detroit.
And the other thing I was curious about is, after that day, do you know if there were a lot of residents who were upset that, or didn't understand that their trash pickup was still going to happen, so they missed it? Did you get a lot of contact from Eastpointe residents?
No.
Okay.
I mean, Eastpointe has had the 6 major holidays right along for quite a while, so.
I was just curious on
Yeah,
that,
no.
so, thank you.
Well, thank you for coming in.
We appreciate it. I just want to let you know that your recycling is doing really well. As you know, residents can call and get a free recycling cart. And right now, I think we're over 10,000 homes in Eastpointe have the 65-gallon recycling cart. So that just went really well.
That's a really high percentage. It's one of the highest in the state.
Yeah, you folks are, we track the recycling like we do everything else every week, every month. You folks are at about 48 out of every 100 homes have something out on any given day, collection day. And we find that about 85% of your people recycle at some point during the month. So it is very good.
And the state, that was my background for 30 years. And the average, going throughout the whole state, it's about 15% really, that most other communities are recycled. So you're really, to be at 80 is pretty high, isn't it, Don?
Well, I mean, it's
80% of
about 85% of the people recycle at some time.
That's a
But
lot.
on any given service day, if you drive down the streets and you see all the carts out, it's about 4 or 5 for every 10 homes, or 48 out of every 100 that has something out that's recyclable. So it's pretty good, not bad.
It's less that's going to the landfill, so
Yeah,
keep it going.
Is
sounds good to me.
a big argument among the mayors as to which city has the highest amount of recycling. And so my big opponents are Westland and Rochester.
You have challenged them to a,
Yes, we're challenged.
okay.
They keep telling me that they recycle more, and so
Okay.
I need that data.
So you're doing, what, Lincoln Park?
No.
No,
Westland?
Mayor Wild.
Okay.
And then the other one's.
And Barnett.
No, Barnett.
Yeah.
I know.
the two Barnetts, the two brothers. So.
Yeah, that's their MO, so.
Now, they got a few more folks than you do, so we'll have to make sure it's apples to apples.
All right, I'll take those percentages.
Very good.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate it, and we appreciate you stopping the rain, too. Thank you. That's great.
Thank you.
All right, we'll move into the hearing of the public. Does anyone wish to be heard? Mr. Creech.
Madam Mayor and Council, Harvey Creech, resident of Eastpointe for 50-plus years. The other day, I was here at a CIP meeting, and just before I left, excuse me, Madam Mayor, but you had the last word. You told me, look around and see this beautiful building about maintenance. Well, I guess the problem is maybe you don't look past your eyes or past the trees in the forest. I can just start reading some of the things right here's an application for public information just for Spindler Park. And this is going back to 16. I asked, what's the warranty on the cracks in the curbing, the cracks on the cement work, the cracks in the asphalt work, all of it. I have a FOIA in here that asked, I couldn't even get any information on the walkway itself. It said this is a maintenance bid. We can't even get maintenance. I've been in front of this committee and board before and asked these same questions. I can just start, as I said before, too. There's a letter here I sent to Mary, and it's on our parks. And this was of 2017. I can't even start to read quite a few of the things that I had asked her. She got some of them done, but many of them haven't been done and probably won't get done this year. Typical example, we had handicap accessible, not done. We will process construction of a dumpster enclosure with gates. Additional, we have parking lot striped, not done. There's a lot of things, on all the parks, not just one. Every park we've got. We've got parks out there right now that they pulled the swings off of and aren't even replaced. You can look on the outside and see a park that the grass is cut. Take a look at the infrastructure. Take a look at your fences. Take a look at your barbecue grills. Take a look at your soccer fields. Take a look at a lot of things. I can't understand. I keep asking, please, go take a look at some of these things. Every one of your parks. Look at your infrastructure. Look what's falling. This city, and I don't, as I said before too, we're not maintaining the city. We don't have, all I hear is we don't have the money. We don't have the means. What are we going to do when it's gone? Like I said before too, we have X amount of money that comes to the parks. Like I said before too, when they worked on Spindler, we had shuffleboards, we had horseshoes. When they started working on the building, it's gone. Where'd it go? I ask everybody, where'd it go? They're gone. We have no shuffleboard equipment.
We have 30 seconds.
We have no shuffleboard equipment. I bought the horseshoes for most of the parks. As I said before, people, please, get out there. And as I said, the recreation and the rare, I can just go through FOIAs and everything, time after time. It's not getting done. Don't believe sometimes if you ask a question of what answer you get, because that's what happened to our last administration. That's probably why they're not here anymore.
Your time is up, sir.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
You can come back to the second hearing.
I'll
of the
be here.
public. Thank you. Does anyone else wish to be heard? In the back. Mr. Duran?
Thank you, Mayor, Council. I'm here again really just to let the public know what the DOJ is up to with the lawsuit. And I was called back for another deposition as well as you probably were as well. And one of a few of the questions that they asked me kind of really struck me, and that's the core issue of what I wanted to speak about today. And they had a list of names, and on this list of names, after each name, which most of them I didn't recognize or know, they asked me, do I know if this person is white or black? And I didn't know the names, so some of them sound familiar, but I didn't know whether they were white or black or not. And later on, he kind of tells me that, well, do you know if these people ran? And I'm gathering from the questions that he asked me that these people indeed were running or put their names up to run. And then at some point in time, they bagged out and they did not run. And as pondering after I got home, it seems to me that what they were getting at is these list of white people had all dropped out. And basically, there's, in my opinion, were basically saying that they had, somebody pushed these people out and told them not to run. Thus, we would have all black candidates. And I kind of really don't understand their thinking because they want to sue us because at one point we don't want any black candidates. And then on the other turn, they believe that you're keeping white candidates from running so that you can get a black candidate. And to me, it just really sounds awkward and crazy that, you know, on one hand, they think that you're racist, or this city is racist because, you know, that's what they're alleging, and that we need to break up the city in order to get a black person on council.
You have 30 seconds, I'm sorry.
And then, to me, it's just, the whole concept of what they're trying to do is ridiculous. Totally ridiculous, because on one point, they're gonna say that the city is racist because they don't want a black person on council, and then you push these white people out from running so that you can get a black person on council, but you're supposed to be racist. It's ridiculous. But anyway, I just wanted to point that out that at that deposition. Thanks.
Thank you, sir. And please state your name.
Charles Schneider, and I'd like to know if the city could provide me the names, the addresses of all the snowplow drivers in the city of Eastpointe, because after the last big snowfall, my sidewalk was cleaned at 11:30 at night, but when I woke up in the morning, there was 4 to 5 inches of hard-packed snow completely covering my sidewalk and even up into my yard. And it took a great deal of effort. Now, I know the driveways get covered. That's, you know, that's to be seen with the cleaning the snow and everything. But to have to go out there again and to clean all that snow, and then after they were cleaned, and I went across the street to my neighbors who are in their 80s and 90s and cleaned their snow also. And that's, I know we had this problem years ago, and they stopped throwing the snow that way. And and I know it's a tough job, but they can slow down cleaning that snow where they don't have to bury people's sidewalks and everything. That's not fun. You know, I'm not a kid anymore. I can still shovel the snow and that, but there's no reason for that. And that's the second time that's happened. That happened between Christmas and New Year's when I came back from Ohio, and the sidewalks were buried again. And that's, I'd like to know if you could provide me with that information so I can go bury their sidewalks the next time it snows.
Thank you, Mr. Schneider.
No, thank you. And to answer his question, when they say is somebody black or white, just answer yes. That solves that problem.
Does anyone else wish to be heard? Anyone else wish to be heard? Anyone else? Seeing none, the first hearing of the public is closed. Move on to approval of the minutes, and we'll start with the show cause meeting on January 16th, 2017. Do we have a motion, please?
Madam Mayor, I motion to approve the minutes for the show cause meeting, January 16, 2017.
Support?
Move and support. Please call the roll.
Can I have to change that? Can I take that motion back and redo it?
Yes.
Okay. Madam Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve the show cause meeting minutes of January 16, 2018.
Oh. I'll support that.
All right, please call the roll.
Councilmember Lucido?
Yes.
Councilmember DeMonico?
Yes.
Councilmember Kleinfeld?
Yes.
Councilmember Owens?
Yes.
Mayor Pixley?
Yes. The second item is the show cause meeting for February 6, 2018.
Madam Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes for the show cause meeting, minutes from February 6, 2018.
I will support.
Do we have support? Please call the roll.
Councilmember Lucido?
Yes.
Councilmember DeMonico?
Yes.
Councilmember Owens?
Yes.
Mayor Pixley?
Yes.
Councilmember Kleinfeld?
Yes.
And our third one is the regular meeting of February the 6th, 2018. Do we have a motion, please?
Madam Mayor, I'll motion to approve the minutes of the regular meeting of February 6, 2018.
Support.
Move and support. Please call the roll.
Councilmember Lucido?
Yes.
Councilmember Kleinfeld?
Yes.
Mayor Pixley?
Yes.
Councilmember DeMonico,
Yes.
Councilmember Owens.
Yes.
We have no scheduled hearings. We only have one item under the unfinished business, and that's the adoption of resolution number 1846 with the MDOT contract, and that's for the pedestrian refuge island construction work at the intersection of 9 Mile Road and Gratiot, and at the intersection of 9 and Virginia. Mr. Marucci, did you want to tackle that?
I will, Madam Mayor, thank you. Pat Cawley is here from the Transportation Improvement Association. He's the one that reviewed the drawings for the city after there was questions at the last meeting. So you have his report. It was provided for you over the weekend. You have in color on the screen the drawing that shows the two islands at 9 and Gratiot as well as the one in Virginia. So Mr. Cawley has brought his laser pointer, so he'll be able to do that. So hopefully, we apologize for this is the best we could get it, so hopefully the people in attendance can somewhat make out. But you are looking south to north. On your left is southbound Gratiot, the pedestrian refuge island. In the middle is the one for northbound Gratiot at 9 Mile. And then way over to the far right, it's barely visible, is the one at Virginia that would lead from the parking lot at the bank and the adjacent lot at the library, and then going to the court/police department. So, Patrick, I'll turn it over to you to make your presentation. They have all had your report, so hopefully there'll be some questions afterwards, and you can go through your methodology.
Thanks for having me. Just want to say again, Pat Cawley with the Transportation Improvement Association. Those of you that aren't familiar with us, we're actually a nonprofit organization that has members in about 60 communities in the Metro Detroit area, provide, education, enforcement, and engineering services to those communities. I handle the engineering services for TIA, and Deputy Chief Kaiser had contacted me about reviewing this about mid-January, and I came out to take a look at it. What's in the report summarizes what I found. I did start by looking at all the existing information that I could gather, looked at existing crash data, looked at existing traffic volumes that were already collected on 9 Mile Road, and went out and observed the site over a few different occasions, twice during a midday Tuesday, which would cover the peak time for the court, where overflow parking down Virginia might affect pedestrian crossings. And then again in the PM peak hour, again looking at pedestrian crossing in the segment of 9 Mile east of Gratiot. So kind of what we found, the existing volumes that were out there vehicular-wise on 9 Mile is approximately 20,000 vehicles per day. What you typically look at when you're looking at a pedestrian crossing is whether you want to do something enhanced or just, stripe the road or provide a place for pedestrians to cross. Is it a multi-lane roadway? In this case, yes. B, is the speed limit 35 miles an hour or over? Again, in this case, yes. C, do you have a vehicular volume of 12,000 or greater? Again, with the 20,000 vehicles, we're yes at that point. And finally, you want to look at pedestrian volumes that are usually a minimum of 20 per hour. So that's what kind of information we wanted to get out of this. And then was looking at the crash data and if there were any existing crashes involving pedestrians or bicycles out there recently. What we did find is there were 2 bicycle crashes. They actually occurred, across Virginia, where bikes were crossing the throat of Virginia and were hit by a car that encroached on the crosswalk there. So not necessarily an issue with crossing 9 Mile. Then as far as, that's a lot better for my end. But then started looking at our observations as far as pedestrian volumes, and what we did see as far as a maximum was 15 pedestrians per hour crossing at Virginia, towards the police or court facility. What we did see was about 5 pedestrians in an hour crossing from the bus stop, kind of diagonally, assuming they're going back to the other bus stop to catch a connection, and then approximately 20 pedestrians crossing this crosswalk as well in a PM peak hour. Some of the issues that were first brought up as far as installing islands, when I talked to Deputy Chief Kaiser in the fire department, was their use of the center turn lane to negotiate Gratiot when there's heavy traffic. They will, use the center turn lane, go around the standing, line up the traffic, and go through Gratiot and avoid that backup. So the question was, are the islands necessary? Is there anything we can do to improve how they are designed presently? So going back to the pedestrian volumes, like they talked about with the basic criteria, you would need to have 20 pedestrians per hour. What we saw, again, maybe it's winter time, so it's a little bit lighter, but we saw a maximum of 15 per hour. There are 5 there. If they were, somehow diverted to use the island, you could get to 20 per hour, and then would want to have some sort of enhanced crossing. The issues, though, that I brought up in my recommendations as far as whether these islands are needed, looking at how it operated with the long green time that's present there for Gratiot Avenue, it provides a long walk time for north-south pedestrians at Gratiot. Typically, when you put an island in, you don't have enough time to cross them across the roadway. You want to provide the island so they got a place to dwell in the middle of the roadway before they continue crossing. In this case, there's plenty of walk time provided. I want to say on the order of 35 seconds a walk. And the way the flashing don't walk is timed right now, it's timed at a fairly generous walking speed, seems to be set, assuming people are walking at 4 feet per second. That's a good normal walking speed, probably hard for children or elderly to walk at that speed. So the flashing don't walk, in my mind, was set a little too low. Because you have such a long walk time, however, though, you can change that so the flashing don't walk is increased and the walk time is decreased, and you still have that cushion of people getting across the street. If you have that, you don't necessarily need a crosswalk going through the island. You don't need to have a place for them to stop. They should have ample time to cross all the way across 9 Mile. So with that in mind, and the emergency vehicle response issue, my thought was to either eliminate these islands or greatly reduce their size so they don't incorporate that crosswalk. They're more aesthetic and not necessarily a function of a place for a pedestrian to dwell. So I kind of presented that as 2 different ideas, either eliminate them completely or greatly reduce their size so that they're not having people dwell in the crosswalk and they're not encouraging folks to cross haphazardly closer to the bus stop and use that. Again, one of the things that concerned me was this diagonal crossing of the bus patrons coming from the stop to the north. Typically, in bus stop design, you put it, just over a bus length away from the intersection, kind of like this one is here. The stop's located here. The bus would stop right there. The thought is people get off the bus, they come behind the bus and cross the crosswalk. It's, as convenient as can be. You want them to exit and go to the back of the bus so they don't get hit by the bus exiting the stop themselves. And That's typically how it's set up. This stop is roughly, I think it was 200 feet from the crosswalk. You're likely not going to get a pedestrian to backtrack 200 feet to cross the street to come back to where they want. So their natural inclination is to cross there diagonally. One of my suggestions, and I'm not sure the history of this area here, but would be to move that bus stop back closer to the intersection, kind of mirror what's on the west side of Gratiot.
What about further the other way to use the Virginia refuge?
Yeah, you know, if this was located on this side of the intersection too, that would work. Again, whether, you know, that becomes too far for people that are connecting, you know, that's usually the issue. They're, don't want to traverse as far, but that would provide them an opportunity to cross there at the Virginia crosswalk, which would.
I think at one time that bus stop was closer to Gratiot, and the reason why it was moved was because of all the people making right turns. And it's supposed to be a right turn after stop, but most people don't do that. And I can't tell you whether there was, you know, an actual accidental injury of any type, but that seems to be the problem with that bus stop and why it was put over there. And it's not all that long ago that the bus stop was moved, and I think it was moved by SMART, actually, with cooperation of the police. But that was the reason why they moved it, just because of the people that are turning right turns at that particular point. And I think one of the other problems that we have is Comtech and, you know, the fancy dancy thing that's the county runs for changing the lights and everything. I think they speed up, or they make the distance, the northbound, southbound Gratiot, in order to keep the traffic moving at a faster rate during peak traffic hours, is faster than the westbound. And so a lot of people are hurrying up to try and catch that westbound bus, and they have quite a distance to go to get over from the bus stop, so they angle over as fast as way they can. And it might be that we need to have SMART also look at that and see whether maybe they could arrange for a westbound bus stop closer to the court.
Yeah, I think either of the ideas, moving it closer to Gratiot or moving it close to Virginia, if, you know, again, if you have some sort of hands crossing there at the, you know, the volume of traffic you're seeing and the width of the roadway and the speed, it makes sense to do.
And I had a question just about the traffic coming from the court and from the police station. What day of the week did you do your analysis?
I did a Tuesday afternoon, I believe I did 11:30 to 2:30, was trying to catch.
So what is the busiest day in the court?
Madam Mayor, I'm not there all during the week, but someone from our office is there on Monday afternoons. Mondays, sometimes there isn't a city attorney docket, but there usually is on Tuesday mornings. Tuesday mornings tend to be busier, but and then Thursdays we're not over there because that's a civil docket day. And then Friday mornings we have a docket, but by far, and I know that Ms. Van Haren, who's in the council chambers, can attest to this, Wednesday afternoons is by far, beginning at about 12:30 till about 3:30, 4 o'clock is by far the busiest time there. And that's pretty much on a consistent basis because we have both a traffic docket on that afternoon, a criminal docket, as well as the building and code enforcement cases. So the judge is very, very busy on Wednesday afternoons over at the 30th District Court.
And Madam Mayor, Tuesday afternoon is the state felony court day, so that is also very busy.
So that's the busiest day. And you did your analysis on a Tuesday?
Yeah, I did a Tuesday, and again, you know, from what I had heard from Deputy Chief Kaiser, you know, that usually there's a lot of overflow parking at the bank and at the city lot. Where I was at, I was sitting in the bank lot, I didn't see a lot of parking, so I assumed, you know, maybe time of year I was seeing a lower level of pedestrian activity than you would see at other times. That's where I'm I'm assuming you're gonna meet the 20 pedestrian threshold there, and it would recommend then that you would do some sort of enhanced crossing. Now that's, could mean a lot of different things. Island is, a good tool to use. Whether, that is an issue with vehicles turning off of Virginia, like I say, with the emergency access issues, is that worthwhile at that point? Some of the things we did discuss is change the design, and it's kind of hard to see at this scale, but I've done some different island design where you angle each end of these, and that would help with the turning movements off of Virginia. It also helps with snowplow impacts. If snowplows tend to hit them in the winter, if it's angled, they're gonna catch less of it. Does actually less damage to their blades, which is where they're usually concerned. So it's just a subtle design thing that can be incorporated in this. Along that vein, the other thing, we talked about, I wasn't aware of any proposed work on Gratiot that was going on. And one of my concerns with this island, how it's designed now, is the nose of it here in line with the curb for Gratiot. Again, that's something you usually don't want to have, again, with vehicles going by, that they might hit it, but also that snowplow issue. It could snag the snowplows that's going by. You usually, offset that maybe 2 feet back so it doesn't get hit. So again, part of the reason, if the island is retained, you at least eliminate the portion that covers the crosswalk, have the crosswalk, run continuous, and it can be accommodated by the walk and flash and don't walk that's available. Going into this part again, I just became aware last week. Joe had sent me over volumes that they did collect as part of this, and I was looking at that to at least kind of make an assessment of, doesn't make sense to make this approach smaller. Bottom line answer is yes, it could be made smaller. How that configuration is, it seems to me with the right turn volume you have here, it's about 450 per hour in the peak hour. That's a significant volume to handle. That would usually in design lend you to put in an exclusive right turn lane. It's going to take those vehicles out of the traffic stream, improve the capacity at the signal, and improve the safety, because you're not going to have the conflict between the through traffic and the slowing turning traffic. This extension of the left turn lane through the intersection to the median crossover, this crossover is a little bit close to the intersection. A typical design has those at about 550, 600 feet. I believe this one's maybe 375 feet. So it's a little bit closer, but looking at the volumes anyway on this side of Gratiot and kind of implying if these right turns are generated from the crossover, it's about 250 an hour that are using that. That could easily be accommodated in the design that's in the plans as far as storage. That's usually what you want to look at. Do you have enough storage in here, or do you have to bring it to the other side of the intersection? So this could be reduced, from 5 lanes to 3 or 4, but in my mind, it's going to need to include a right turn lane that probably has you then at a 4-lane section with possibly the elimination of that left lane. But I'll preface all that. That's just looking at the volumes and kind of doing some back of the envelope stuff. I assume MDOT did some sort of detailed capacity analysis. That's the usual course, where they'll have the actual traffic signal information, look at all the peak hours, run them before and after with the different lane configurations and find out what that is.
Could I ask how long a dedicated right turn lane would typically be for that type of capacity?
Yeah, I mean, usually if you run that capacity analysis, what you'll end up with is kind of a maximum queue length that you'll see during that time. And then typically from there, say it's 10 vehicles, if you assume 20 feet per vehicle or 25 feet per vehicle, whatever your design standard is, you get that length. So a lot of MDOT's standard, lanes that they put in are going to be 250 feet. What I was looking at in this case, again, if you're 450, I mean, you're probably looking at about 15 vehicles per cycle going through that intersection. You probably need, a good amount of storage through there.
Did you talk to the fire department at all about the width of the truck, and if you had an island, was the truck going to be able to get around through the island or near the island? If you had, I would assume that, I guess I've seen the fire truck and the ambulance when they come from their place on Pleasant and 9 Mile Road and make a left, and they have to go through the intersection. If there's traffic in both lanes, there's no place for, and going westbound, there's no place for the traffic to go, so they have to go through the center lane. And that was a concern of me because I didn't think that there was enough width for the truck to get through.
With the island in place, I would say,
They couldn't get through at all.
yeah, depending on, how the vehicles reacted, that's where, my assumption is if you had a shorter island, they would be able to go to the left of the island anyway. They'd be, in oncoming traffic on the other side, but it's short enough. It would provide them an opportunity to get around it. It still wouldn't be ideal, but it's, again, if you're looking for that balance of providing for emergency response, but still providing amenities for the pedestrian, that's kind of a compromise. Some of the other things, I guess I've kind of got off task a little bit, but some of the other things I did want to say, recommending it. You had mentioned the right turning vehicles conflicting with the pedestrians. I certainly saw that when I was out there. There's, different signage treatments you could do. Make sure that you remind vehicles that they need to yield for pedestrians when they're turning. That was something I recommended you could put at the crosswalk. As the intersection's upgraded, the standard course now is to replace the pedestrian signals with ones with the countdown timers. You've probably seen those. I think that would be helpful here where you have a very long crossing and people don't know if they can make it or not. That tells them, I have 10 seconds left, I'm not going to make it, I better stay here. As well, you probably want to do something with the markings to make them enhanced. That's, instead of just the two lines, which are very hard to see for a vehicle approaching, you do a ladder style where it has the bars in between, or you just do what they call continental style, which is just thick bars that go across the roadway. Particularly, where you're doing this mid-block unsignalized crossing, you really want that crossing to stand out and people are aware that it's there. Whether the island is installed at Virginia or not, again, I think you're going to want to do something that's enhanced. That's enhanced markings with that continental style probably. Signage on the side of the road indicating where the crosswalk is. Perhaps in-street signing. The tall, skinny ones that say yield to pedestrian. That's kind of a minimum treatment for an enhanced crossing. And then what you might want to do is, you can do some sort of flasher signs. Prior to a month ago, I would have said the tool of choice would be to use something called a rectangular rapid flashing beacon, or RFB. You might have seen some of them around. They're an LED light bar that flashes, kind of looks like an emergency vehicle flasher. They're button operated by the pedestrian themselves and are are pretty effective at getting people to yield. Right now, there's a patent dispute with the original maker of it, and the Federal Highway Administration says you can't use them anymore because patented devices can't be used in the public right of way. There are some other, tools like that. You can do the conventional round flashers or pedestrian signage with LED signs in the borders that are acceptable, and will get better yielding rates than you would if you just, put the markings and a sign out there and expected people to stop.
Suzanne, I had a response in part to something you said. The bus stopped moving away from the corner. I know we had a discussion trying to figure out what the original plan was. Could getting rid of the auxiliary lane have been tied to trying to slow down that turning for the bus? I don't know if maybe
Are you talking about eastbound or westbound?
the south eastbound. Because I'm wondering if, there were two solutions that people looked at, moving it and doing that, and, now we have both of them in front of us. Because it seems to me that would make sense in terms of if we wanted to move the bus or ask SMART to move the bus route back to the corner. So,
So the eastbound bus, and I think that there were also, this was moved at the same time as we were having a little bit of difficulty with high numbers of school kids getting out, and a lot of those were riding the bus down to the eastern limits. So, but that number is rapidly diminished, and most of the kids are walking. So that's not a problem any longer. But the people getting off of the northbound Gratiot bus walk, and there's usually quite a few, and so they would walk down, and they just didn't want them congregated right there at the corner. So it seems to work out better, and we were able to put a covered bus stop there as well, so.
Now, right, you said on Gratiot and 9 Mile, you said you have to lessen the concrete that's in front of the walkway. You make it smaller, you said? Now, when you created that, you thought it was safer to make it that size, so why would we make it smaller?
You're talking this
Right.
overall?
Yes.
Yeah, again, I'm glad they got the dimension there, that it's 86 feet. Typically, when you put an island in, you might see something more like that. Standard design you're gonna see is probably about 40 feet long. What you typically want when you put the island in is that it's large enough that it's visible at night. So it should have a certain amount of surface area, and of course it helps to have, different amenities on it, or possibly landscaping. Actually, landscaping makes it stand out really well. But in general, the 86 feet, it doesn't necessarily need to be that long. Shortening it, again, would solve that issue, and I think would be a compromise, like I said, with the emergency vehicle response. They could use the center turn lane when they got there, look for that gap in oncoming traffic. They could maneuver around it. Again, not ideal, but maybe a compromise if the island's retained.
Well, I was thinking of the way it's sized is if someone was to have an accident, they would hit the concrete first before a pedestrian. That's why it was built so large. So they had that space between the car, and the pedestrian, correct? So why would we make it smaller?
Yeah, well, if you're here and the vehicle's coming this way, again, it's not gonna provide a lot. My opinion, from what I've seen of the islands themselves, the first year they're installed, they'll get hit, and they'll get hit often. It diminishes over time after people get used to it, but really the island itself isn't necessarily protection from the vehicle. If the vehicle strikes the curb, if they're doing anything over 15 miles an hour, they're gonna jump the curb anyway. So it doesn't really provide a barrier to there. It's more of a physical space for that pedestrian to dwell in.
And so, Joe, was it was MDOT that originally drew this out? Because it seems like there were a lot of considerations, not considered?
The design was by Anderson, Exxon, and Westrick.
Oh, okay. Uh, Who originally proposed just doing the refuge islands, though?
The city did.
Oh, we did, okay.
Yes.
So this
Actually,
was,
it was a request from a number of the seniors over at Chesterberry because they were unable to get across, and we're talking about the west side, but it was very difficult for them to get across in one light. And so currently, a lot of those people that were requesting it have since died, but that was one of the reasons. And we had a number of people that were blind that were in Chesterberry, and they felt that it could be, but they were looking more, not right at the corner of 9 and Gratiot, but a little bit further west for an island there that they could go to. But you do have one light at Grove and 9 Mile Road, but it's also the emptying place for the high school. So on high school days, it becomes really difficult. It's a very difficult place to cross anywhere between, I would say, the other side of the schoolhouse all the way to Gratiot for a lot of the seniors. And a lot of the seniors are going to Rite Aid to buy their groceries. So they walk over there, and many of them have walkers and so forth. So that was one of the problems why they wanted to do the one on the west side. And then we started noticing a lot of the people crisscrossing, like you mentioned, from the bus stop to go at an angle across 9 Mile Road, and that was a real concern. And then the people that were going to the court or the police station, and they have to go to the public parking that's on the other side by the library parking lot.
Yeah, and one thing I didn't talk about too with this crosswalk here, again, that's really long, and the way it is set up is they actually intend for the pedestrian to only make it halfway and dwell in that median. So some of this, proposed design to narrow this and make it easier for them to cross is always a good idea. Make it narrower for the pedestrian. They're not in the roadway as long and they're not as exposed, but you're still going to have that situation. They're not going to make it all the way across. It's going to be two-stage crossing.
Oh, if I understand correctly, I believe she's talking about crossing 9 Mile.
Yeah.
Which is shorter, but I don't know.
Yeah, I'm assuming you're.
The wide
Yeah,
median actually enables them to cross Gratiot at that corner. The problem was crossing 9 Mile Road on the Gratiot side.
Yeah, and
So one of the ways they fixed that was no rights on red on the southbound side of Gratiot. And that's resolved a lot of those issues.
Yeah, where I was talking about the flashing don't walk, I think that's critical. If you have an elderly population and school children population, which was what I saw out there, you really want that flashing don't walk set at a slower walking speed, whether that's 3 feet per second or 3.5 feet per second. It seems to be 4 feet per second, which is in the acceptable range of design, but probably not good for this location.
So it wouldn't be would it be advisable to put a second light down at the end of Virginia for people to cross?
Well, I
Is
would
that
say-
too close in proximity?
Yeah, and as far as a full-blown traffic signal, to put that in, then you're gonna need to meet one of the criteria that's in the manual, or typically called a warrant.
And how many pedestrians would you have to have for that?
Again, you need the 20 per hour, but you have to, there's a graphical method that you'd have to meet there, and I don't believe you'd meet it, just from my gut sense. The side street volume wouldn't be large enough from what I've seen either, so my assumption would be you wouldn't meet one of those. You could put in what's called a pedestrian hybrid beacon or a hawk signal. It's going to have a red indication with excuse me, a yellow indication underneath. Kind of looks like a Mickey Mouse head.
Those like the ones down in Clinton Township on Gratiot? There's a couple of those.
Yes.
He's shaking his head. I'm
It's a
not
hawk.
familiar with those, but
Yes.
around here, I know there's one in Clawson, on 14 Mile.
Patrick, there is one up on northbound Gratiot, 14 and a half perhaps, something like that.
Okay, okay.
Yes.
You know, that's because of all the apartment walking across, over to the school that's on the west side in Clinton Township.
Excuse me, there's requirements for that, they're less than a full-blown signal, and would be less impactful to, throughput on 9 Mile. The way they operate is they're gonna be dark when they're not activated, so people traverse right through them. When they get activated, they'll turn to yellow, telling people to caution. They go to red, you have to stop, and then they go into a flashing red mode where if there's not a pedestrian present, you can continue through. So it's a lot less impact on the traffic stream itself.
Kind of sounded like for a minute you thought we should just get rid of the two on the left, the two right next to Gratiot, then just do the Virginia one, or
That would be, my first recommendation. If, there was something compelling that said we need to keep an island there in some fashion, I certainly would make that smaller where the crosswalk isn't incorporated in it.
okay.
Emergency vehicles might be able to get around it, and, it'd be more of an island for aesthetics as kind of a gateway treatment to the area.
Acting Director Kaiser, what were your thoughts? Did you have any thoughts on this?
I concur with TIA's assessment. The addition of those islands would make it difficult for public safety vehicles to negotiate that intersection. The size of the island seems to be overkill since it's right outside my window. I watch pedestrian traffic, people going northbound and southbound across 9 Mile do have enough time to make it across. I think the best solution would be to modify the pedestrian signals there and possibly add an island at Virginia. But that could cause other problems with vehicles turning westbound off Virginia and police cars turning out of the police driveway in a hurry. Because I don't like to see wrecked police cars.
Okay.
Mr. Plum, did you have?
Well, I was just going to say, one of the elements of why this was looked at in the first place was not just the seniors crossing, but as a means of visually slowing people down. And the idea was this was just the start, and eventually there would be islands all the way down 9 Mile, just as a visual, I guess, road diet, I guess is the common term, but it would be that visual impact of slowing the traffic down within that 9 Mile corridor. And it, part of it is we have a lot of people that cross mid-block, nobody walks to the light. And so the idea was you'd have all these islands down there, as long as it didn't interfere with the businesses. So it's just another element of these islands.
I can see the effectiveness if it's further down. I'm just real concerned that corner at 9 and Gratiot more than anything else. And also I worry considerably because of the traffic that we have going both eastbound and 9 and westbound on the east side of 9 and Gratiot. It just seems as though that it really inhibits the public safety vehicles, whether you're talking about the police or whether you're talking about the fire. And I think that can be a real problem for both of those two departments. I guess I don't mind the one on the west side. I think the one on the right side is a real problem. And so I appreciate your report. You certainly did a phenomenal job of analyzing the problem.
Thanks. Hope it was helpful.
And it wasn't super long, too. I like that. It was very to the point.
I always feel bad coming in at the end of a project and interjecting things, but I think those are, my opinions on putting pedestrian islands like that. And I said I have done quite a few, so feel like they're all valid points.
Would there be a way that you can redo this and put it where it works? Because this whole thing obviously doesn't work for us. So can you put something together that we can look at and say, okay, this works, where the lights are that need to be where they at, you know what I'm saying? Because we looking at something that doesn't work. So I don't, and you said you didn't put this together. I know it was another firm that did. And so I don't know why we would even show something that doesn't even work. So how about make a map where just, you said that the smaller island, that doesn't work either, right? For
As far as
emergencies and police?
or-
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, it would potentially have the same impact if they're using the center turn lane. I think that from what I heard from fire was, you know, they go down that turn lane, but, you know, it's only where traffic is backing up from Gratiot where it becomes critical.
Okay.
And then they need to get around there. Again, I did, you know, see traffic frequently back up
Okay.
to the police driveway, but not every cycle. So that one's probably less impactful and, you know, a good use of the tool there at Virginia to give them an opportunity to cross.
So have we given his report to Steve Pangori for review with AEW to talk about some of his recommendations? Maybe we can coordinate them back together.
They did receive it, yes. We haven't scheduled any meeting yet to find out I want to find out what direction the council wants to give first.
So anybody have a motion?
Well, I've got one question before. Do we have what are like any deadlines on this?
You know, this is a complicated project, as simple as it sounds, because it's tied together with two other projects, the elimination of the right-hand turn lane and the elimination of the acceleration lane. So everything's on hold. And any change, because this is approved by the federal government and by the state Michigan Department of Transportation, any change to these islands, we're going to have to go back. So if there's a deadline, there probably is. Probably the most basic deadline is how long are the bids good for? They were opened on, I believe it was January, first Friday in January. They always open on the first Friday of the month. So I don't know what their bid specifications call for. I would assume that's the deadline. Would someone extend it? Is there a procedure for it? So that's probably the only deadline I could see immediately.
It just seems like there's a lot of things to consider right now and
There's-
have a full motion.
There's a lot to consider here. And just as important is the elimination of the right-hand turn lane, which the council approved that agreement at the last meeting. So there's a lot to be done here. So again, any change, getting rid of the bulb outs at Gratiot, we've got to go back. So that's,
And actually, that is not a right-hand turn lane. That is marked for parking. So, and DDOT did that, or MDOT did that, marked it for parking. So it's just that most people use that as a right-hand turn lane.
Well, you can't park that close to the corner though, right? So is that just not supposed to be used
There's only.
at all then?
There's a very short distance that you can't park right at the corner.
Yeah, I think you're supposed to be able to park in that area. I was speaking to Cardi earlier. Whenever I do those flower beds, I don't park there. My car would get hit by
Oh,
someone
you-
swinging out to turn
And
right.
I have parked there before when I was doing those flower beds. And a car, I went back to my car to get something, and a car whipped around the Michigan turn and hit the tree right next to where I was. So that is a parking lane, and it was designated, and it was marked by MDOT previously, so. I think we need to,
Consider this further.
I think we really need to rehash this all out and maybe redesign it. I know it's gonna take 2 or 3 years once you tell them no, but
now, something you should know, if we just stop the project, because we had a traffic safety audit done, they paid a little bit more than they usually do for the pre-construction or for the preliminary design. We will owe just under $9,000 back to the Michigan Department of Transportation. So I want you to make that decision with that full knowledge. It may be worth looking at. It appears to be merit with the crossing at Virginia. but it'll have to be upgraded, according to Patrick, because probably should put some type of lighting in terms of a flashing beacon, a little bit of an upgrade. And if we do put that one in, you'd recommend the angular approach to both sides of it, so that way it's not a head-on for a car or a plow or whatever the case may be. So it sounds like you don't want to proceed with the entire project. Am I correct in that?
I would like to see AEW review this with a traffic safety evaluation and then bring it back, but you don't have very much time to bring it back and get it back in the...
I can find out the deadline for bids. That's probably the one we should be concerned with in the state. At the same point in time, I believe we can have some type of response or collaboration or meeting with TIA and AEW and come back at the next meeting.
And public safety.
Right, they've been a part of this now, right. So, well, Patrick would be there, and he knows they're concerned, but so would the two deputy chiefs. If that's how you want me to proceed.
I mean, that sounds more reasonable to me because, if we just de-scope the project and still capture some funds to get it done, that might be better than just letting those funds go.
Yeah, I don't.
If they can put it all together
Right.
Quick enough. And I guess the question would be if, I don't know how much latitude we have to change the plans once the funds are.
You have no latitude without approval from the Michigan Department of Transportation. This is an approved design. So even if you were going to do everything and just turn the islands at Virginia angular, that would need their blessing.
What would they say if you kept one of the islands? And
Mayor, my guess is it would have to go back through some type of approval process because we've changed. They may be totally in favor of it, but they would formally have to approve it.
especially if you have all the bids out.
Right, well,
gonna be really
again,
difficult.
it gets that way because you can upscale or downscale a project, but only to a certain percentage. And then the contractor says, I'm pulling out.
Now, when does this, no, I'm sorry.
No, go
Now, when does this project supposed to start again? Start working
My
on
guess
that.
is it would start as soon as the construction season begins because they have approved low bidder. They have not awarded a contract, but they've identified a low bidder for this project. And again, it's tied to also the deacceleration lanes and tied to the elimination of the northbound right-hand turn lane. These are all together.
The reason I asked that is because while we're waiting to get that done, and you were talking about the safety lights, why are we waiting to put safety lights up in order to put both of them together? Shouldn't we do that now? Shouldn't that be an issue now? To put up those safety.
When you refer to the safety lights, are you talking the ones at Virginia that
Yeah,
he's
like
talking about?
no, not Virginia, just on 9 Mile and Gratiot saying don't turn on red or something like that.
Well, that's just signage, not lights. Now, he did talk about upgrading the lights to the countdown. Those are lights that are owned and paid for by the Michigan Department of Transportation. They'll probably be upgraded when they redo Gratiot in 3 to 4 to 5 years, but that's an expensive project.
Well, even with the signs, can we start doing that now? I don't think
We
should have to
can.
wait for an island for people to be safe when we can start putting up things now for them to be safe.
We can absolutely do that if that's how the council wants to proceed, but this all came together obviously right now, so besides the meeting with AEW and TIA and looking at what can be done, in essence, find out from NDOT the deadline, don't make any action and have this on the next council meeting agenda for review again. Is that what you wish?
That sounds
That's what
like
I
all
would
we can
like.
do right now, so.
Then that will be.
All of those thoughts together.
No, that will
we
be.
just had.
I don't need a motion, I think it's very clear. But before Patrick leaves, I think we should have discussion on the right-hand turn lane and the possible elimination, which we've in essence signed on to at this point in time, but it's not too late since the project is stalled. And you saw, I think the term you used, fairly heavy, pretty heavy. You would not recommend the elimination of that lane.
Yeah, like I said, usual rule of thumb, if you start looking at turning volumes and you want to put in an exclusive turn lane, if it starts reaching 100 per hour or over, that's when you start looking at it. I mean, that would take again, detailed capacity analysis, but where it's at, over 400 vehicles per hour, where you're probably gonna have, a dozen to 15 vehicles per cycle turning right, it makes sense to have an exclusive lane, just, based on the raw numbers.
Can we cut it out further south then? Leave a lane, but, so it's obvious where parking ends and where a turning lane would begin then?
Yeah,
Is that a possibility?
I'm not sure how far
Their plan was to move it out all the way back to Ethelyn Court, the first side street, bump out 12 feet all the way. I have to
All
tell
the
you.
way to 9 Mile, right?
Yes, I'm sorry, from Ethelyn North. Yes, the first six.
The whole block.
I'm
Yes,
saying,
the whole
can
block.
we start at Ethelyn and go part of the way?
Could be. I would have to ask them because they're the ones who probably thought if you want to get rid of it, you get rid of it the whole way.
Just trying to think. So is it not a good idea? I was trying to look at other intersections that would be similar, and there's probably not many except maybe 9 in Woodward. And they, so we have 3 regular lanes, and then we still have that left turn lane, but that's going to be gone soon enough. So we have 3 regular lanes. Woodward has 4 regular lanes, but then they've done what is being proposed here. There is no parking lane to pull into. The right regular lane is to turn right. So you would think that was probably not a good idea to do there then, right? Because I'd assume that 9 in Woodward is probably similarly busy to 9 in Gratiot then?
Yeah, I mean, if you have right turn volumes that are that large, to separate them, it's going to help at the signal itself with capacity, and then conflicts between the through traffic and the turning traffic. That's usually where, if you have a shared lane like that, you're going to see more rear end crashes as people slow down to turn.
Right, yeah.
The through traffic, particularly with people on their phones nowadays, that's probably more prevalent. So.
I think, to me, the best thing is if we can leave a right turn lane, but somehow make it obvious that, because right now, even, we were just talking, it seems like we don't know if it was a turning lane or a parking lane.
It's not, it was a
it's
parking
not,
lane.
it's not obvious if we can leave the turning lane, but
Perhaps it can be striped
something like
to
that.
show something, maybe a sign as well, an arrow would assist, a 90-degree arrow.
I mean, since it's Gratiot, we wouldn't be able to make that determination by ourselves. We'd have to get
No.
approval to change it from parking to,
No.
Yeah. That's correct.
We can at least try suggesting.
And all the signs and the signals are all MDOT as well. And they're very controlling, as we know. Because I can remember an east-west sign that said how many seconds you had to cross that street. So that's gone by the wayside at some point in time, and I can't tell you when or where, but I know that we did have those a long time ago.
Yeah, and as far as doing, the countdown pedestrian signals, I mean, usually work like this because of the nature of it where, they're doing paving and curb work. They wouldn't necessarily have an electrical contractor, so it wouldn't fit with that. What might happen if you have a conversation with MDOT, they're regularly doing traffic signal modernization projects. They could fit this in with another project, and that's the hard part, to have the contractor that can go out and install the heads and do the rewiring. They need to be an electrical contractor, so if they already have that, then it may work out.
When everyone gets together, can we have all of the recommendations on one drawing then? Because, we don't have the 2 left turn lanes and the right lane also. I think it'd be helpful to all see together once everyone makes a decision between now and the next.
We'll try that,
meeting.
yes. Now,
See if AEW can do that.
is the desire to change the council's mind on the right-hand turn lane?
Well, for Mr. Cawley, I don't think we should do the exact suggestion that is currently approved.
I'd like to have this discussion between Mr. Colley and you or whoever, and just as we mentioned before, and come back at the next council meeting. And that would include the right-hand turn lane.
Okay, we can do that.
you know, if any of us have ideas to want, like, I think I'll just talk to you after the meeting and tell you maybe this would be possible, but I don't want to waste too much time on ideas that, discussing them that we can't do. Should I do a motion to table this until?
Well, Mr. Marucci said we didn't need to table it.
My comment was I didn't need a motion on how to proceed.
I would like a motion to table it, if you wouldn't mind.
All right, I make a motion to table Resolution 1846 until the regular meeting on March 6th.
Support.
Moved and support, please call the roll.
Councilmember Kleinfeld?
Yes.
Councilmember Lucido?
Yes.
Councilmember DeMonico?
Yes.
Councilmember Owens?
Yes.
Mayor Pixley?
Yes. Thank you very much. Great report. Let's move on to reports from administration. We'll start with our city manager.
A couple of items, Mayor and members of council. One is water bills are due tomorrow, and I say that all the time because I hate to see people late because they've missed something, even though it's always on the 21st. The second one was, there was a property owner here at the last meeting that talked about not being able to sell his property because of us not allowing live work or people to live on the property, as well as obviously have a retail or an office or whatever. Is there the desire in the council to have the planning commission review that ordinance provision? Apparently,
I would like, it seemed relatively reasonable to me.
and it sounded like we had that at some point in time, not that long ago. Is that your desire?
Yes.
Okay, we can act on that, and we'll schedule that for the next time the planning commission meets, so we can have some background. The next item is the Board of Review, which you'll be acting on in terms of appointments or reappointments, meets approximately about 3 weeks from now, but the Board of Review meets on March 13th from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., March 14th from 3 p.m. to 9 p.m. You need to make an appointment to appear before the board, so you would call the City Hall number 445-3661 and press extension 7. You would go then to the assessing department, and they would schedule you for an appointment to the Board of Review. So that's what I want to make sure. And also, one last thing, assessments will be mailed out this Friday, so hopefully as soon as Saturday, and probably by Monday, everyone will be receiving their assessment for the 2018-19 tax year. Again, those go into effect on July 1.
I had one question about the Board of Review. We said we have later for the commission appointments, we have 3 vacancies.
Yes.
What, I thought it was a 5-person board. I have not been to a.
It's a 6-person board. We have 3 if you act, we'll have 3 members and an alternate. We have a potential for 3 additional members and 1 alternate.
Okay.
So they can act. And my guess is, yes, my guess is the way it's set up, there probably was meant to be 2 3-person boards, because it doesn't make sense, though I've encountered in the past, to have an even number board, because you end up with a tie vote, potentially. So that's my belief. So we have that potential. And back in the crash period and in the early 90s, you really needed 2 boards for a city this size, because the weight would have been incredible.
Well, if anyone in the audience is interested, we have openings.
And they meet 3 times a year, March, July, and December. That's all I have.
Anything else for the city manager?
That's all I have, Mayor.
Yeah, I had a question about, when I had a meeting with Steve Pangori about the water bills. He told me that Roseville pays less than Eastpointe, and I want the breakdown of why that is, if you can get that for me. Because Roseville has a bigger population, is bigger than ours, and I want to know why are we paying more than them, if you can give me that breakdown. He didn't know how to explain it to me. He says a lot of calculations to that, and I would like to, the best of my ability, try to learn what that calculation is and why are we paying more than Roseville.
That's actually GLWA is charging Roseville less than Eastpointe. So that's a GLWA question. That's one of the reasons we haven't been able to make the reservoir work, because Roseville doesn't want to join our reservoir to pay our higher water rates. Now, yeah, if anybody can figure out how the GLWA does their calculations, they're probably a genius. But it's not something they share with the individual communities.
Shouldn't they, though? Aren't we paying them? Shouldn't we know how?
They do have outreach programs, and I'll send you one the next time that I get notification of the outreach program, I'll send you the information. They do have meetings, and they will explain all that.
Okay, thank you.
But some of it was also explained in Randy Blum's information that he provided not too long ago. So since you've been here, he's provided some information about the water rates.
Well, it's
Well,
also much more complicated than that too, because, well, the council sets the rate. I mean, we could set whatever we want, so.
Yeah, but that's our city rate. It's actually the rate from GLWA per unit is cheaper to Roseville than it is to Eastpointe.
Right, but I'm sure that's not the only difference.
Oh, no, it wouldn't be.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it depends on if you're talking about the rate to purchase it or the rate that we sell it at,
Right.
as far as
And-
which one's higher.
Initially, when GLWA came about, they said that they would not increase water rates any more than 4% per year. And we received letter this year that they're only going to increase it another 2%. But the first year, I believe they increased it 10%, something to that
Yeah,
effect.
we've seen anywhere from 6 to 10 on the usage side and upwards of 15 on the fixed price side.
Okay, again, if you can give me that information on how to.
You'd still like information?
Still like the information from both the mayor and you, if you can give me that information.
Okay,
Will do.
I'll send you the outreach information.
Thank you.
All right, Finance Director, Mr. Blum.
Yes, Madam Mayor and Council. The State of Michigan Department of Transportation had put in a new requirement for the fiscal 17 audit year. And it was basically a compliance audit that had to be completed. They put together the standards, they put them out there, and all the cities and villages and townships had to comply. As they started getting the reports in, they realized that their requirements didn't tell them what they wanted. Basically, the information was useless. And mid-audit, they said, if you haven't completed it, stop. If you have, basically send us the bill. Ours was already done, and we had to pay $3,500 to Plant Moran to complete that. I did submit for reimbursement, and I was shocked when they actually paid. The money showed up today. So MDOT did what they said they were going to do after they came up with goofy regulations. So, and that's really all I have. So.
All right, anyone have questions? Let's move on to our city attorney.
Thank you.
Mr. Albright.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of council. We have been very busy preparing for expert depositions related to the DOJ case. Those depositions are scheduled to begin next week, Monday. I will be traveling to Washington, D.C. on Sunday to assist in preparation of Dr. Alford's deposition, who is one of the city's experts. Later in the week, I'll be traveling then to St. Louis, Missouri for Professor Zach's deposition, and then returning on Friday. One of the other attorneys from our office will be handling my court duties over at the 30th District Court next week. And Mr. Erie will be attending the Planning Commission meeting. I assume there's going to be one scheduled, Mary? Okay. I will be available via email next week. I'll be reviewing my emails in the morning and the evenings, and of course by cell phone in the evening. So happy to answer any questions.
Have none? Anyone? Thank you. All right, let's move on to new business. Our first item is the introduction and first reading of the ordinance related to rezoning of the property located at 16145 8 Mile Road, parcel number 1431458016. We have a motion to put this on the table.
Madam Mayor, I'll motion to introduce and give first reading to ordinance number 1149, which would rezone property located at 16145 8 Mile Road, parcel number 14-31-458-16 from B1 and P3 to B3, and schedule the ordinance for second reading and consideration for adoption at City Council's March 6, 2018 regular meeting.
Support.
Move and support. Any questions? We have Ms. Van Haren here, and we also have the chairman of planning.
Yeah, and thank you. I just wanted to make a comment that there's an error in there. It's a P1 zoning district, not a P3.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I wanted the record to be read correctly if you so adopted that.
Well, I accept Ms. Van Haren's change because P3 is no such thing.
Right.
Any questions?
No, I think it just said, just to confirm this was, because I know the planning commission has obviously been discussing the master plan a lot, this would actually put us closer to what they are planning in the future for the master plan.
Well, that's right, and so they also considered the future land use map because it would affect both of these properties that are before you tonight. And one of the recommendations will be that the future land use map be changed to reflect these zoning recommendations.
Was there any consideration at the planning commission about its proximity to the streets, the houses on Stricker?
There was discussion about that. There is a masonry wall that's existing there. The masonry wall is between the back of the property line and the residential backyard. There was discussion about that.
Yeah, so the additional businesses allowed would still not negatively affect the residents.
Well, they felt it wouldn't, and of course, any special land use would have to, this particular one on 8 Mile, they're looking at doing a used car lot, but that would then take that special land use requirement where they'd have to get that before being approved for the site plan and special land use.
So this is essentially the entire property that used to be the old Evergreen and then grocery store, the whole entire parking lot along 8 Mile Road?
That's correct.
Correct.
And their intention at this point is to put up a building, but we haven't even seen a site plan for that yet until they got through this process.
And the building is for the used car lot?
That's the idea so far.
All right, we have a motion on the table to provide it for a second hearing. Are there any more questions? All right, let's call the roll.
Councilmember DeMonico?
Yes.
Councilmember Lucido?
Yes.
Councilmember Kleinfeld?
Yes.
Councilmember Owens?
Yes.
Mayor Pixley?
Yes. Thank you. Oh, one more for you. The introduction and the first reading of ordinance 1150, which is rezoning the property located at 22711 Kelly Road. Do we have a motion, please?
Sure, Madam Mayor, I'll motion to introduce and give first reading to ordinance number 1150, which would rezone property located at 22711 Kelly Road, parcel number 14-29-479-28, from B1 to B3, and schedule the ordinance for second reading and consideration for adoption at City Council's March 6th, 2018 regular meeting.
Support.
Move support. Any questions for Ms. Van Haren?
Essentially, there's the same thing again, right? Going from local commercial to regional commercial, and
That's
Planning Commission was saying the same thing for that area of town also.
That's correct.
All right.
Now, do you know what they're do you know what their plans are for that? Because actually, we're talking about the T-Mobile that's on 9 and Kelly, correct?
Yes, and they have revealed that to us in the form of a proposed site plan that our planner has taken a look at, and that planning commission will look at further if the rezoning is approved. And they want to leave the existing building there and put a drive-through window essentially where it was previously for the drive-through bank, if that's ultimately approved by planning commission and city council. And so they would have a tenant in there who would utilize the drive-through window for a restaurant.
Was there a zoning change from when it was First State Bank with a drive-in window to the T-Mobile that's currently
Yeah,
leasing
there
it?
was not a zoning change at that time, Madam Mayor, and I suspect that bank was there before the zoning ordinance required a special land use for drive-through windows. That's my best guess at how that occurred without a special land use.
I'm curious, what restaurant were they talking about?
Don't know. I think I heard fish and chips.
Not Chick-fil-A, no.
No, I didn't hear Chick-fil-A.
Okay. Any further questions? Please call the roll.
Councilmember DeMonico?
Yes.
Councilmember Kleinfeld?
Yes.
Councilmember Owens?
Yes.
Mayor Pixley?
Yes,
Councilmember Lucido?
Yes.
thank you. So our next item is for commission appointments, and we have a slew of them. And they're pretty well summarized on the bottom underneath recommended motion. So would someone like to make that motion?
Sure, Madam Mayor, I'll motion to reappoint Jacqueline Macon to the Assessment Board of Review, term to expire March 15th, 2021.
Do we have support? Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Councilmember DeMonico?
Yes.
Councilmember Kleinfeld?
Yes.
Councilmember Owens?
Yes.
Mayor Pixley?
Yes.
Councilmember Lucido?
Yes.
Our second motion then would be to reappoint Kathleen Galen to the Civil Service Board. Do we have a motion for that?
Madam Mayor, I'll make a motion to reappoint Kathleen Galen to the Civil Service Board with a term to expire April 15th, 2021.
Support?
Move and support. Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Councilmember Kleinfeld?
Yes.
Councilmember Lucido?
Yes.
Mayor Pixley?
Yes.
Councilmember DeMonico?
Yes.
Councilmember Owens?
Yes.
Next item is the motion to appoint, or to concur with the acting city manager's reappointment of Teresa West and Peter Hayden to the DDA with terms to expire September 1, 2019.
So moved.
Support?
Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Councilmember DeMonico?
Yes.
Councilmember Lucido?
Yes.
Councilmember Kleinfeld?
Yes.
Councilmember Owens?
Yes.
Mayor Pixley?
Yes. And the next item is to appoint a person to the Library Commission, and this was recommended by the librarian. So I need a motion to appoint Craig Wodecki.
Madam Mayor, I'll make a motion to appoint Craig Wodecki to the Library Commission to fill an unexpired term ending August 15th, 2021.
Support.
Move and support. Please call the roll.
Councilmember Kleinfeld?
Yes.
Councilmember Owens?
Yes.
Councilmember Lucido?
Yes.
Mayor Pixley?
Yes.
Councilmember DeMonico?
Yes.
And this next two motions are fun times. These are the adoption number, resolution number 1851, related to roadway concrete paving work along Topher Drive from Boulder Avenue to David. Do we have a motion? This is the MDOT project.
Sure, Madam Mayor, I'll motion to approve MDOT contract number 18-5032 for roadway concrete paving work along Topher Drive from Boulder Avenue to David Avenue, including concrete pavement removal, integral concrete curb and gutter, subbase storm drainage replacement, concrete sidewalk and ramp, permanent signing, and pavement marking work, and all together with necessary related work, and authorize the acting city manager to execute the contract on behalf of the city.
Support.
Move and support. Please call the roll.
Councilmember DeMonico?
Yes.
Councilmember Kleinfeld?
Yes.
Councilmember Owens?
No.
Mayor Pixley?
Yes.
Councilmember Lucido?
Yes.
Our next item is the adoption of resolution number 1852. This is the special assessment resolution number 1 for sidewalk and driveway approaches for district number 180. Do we have a motion?
Madam Mayor, I'll make a motion to adopt resolution number 1852, which establishes the sidewalk and driveway approach special assessment, district number 179, and directs the preparation of the special assessment rule.
Support.
Oh, I'm sorry, district number 180.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Any further discussion on this? Please call the roll.
Councilmember Kleinfeld?
Yes.
Councilmember DeMonico?
Yes.
Councilmember Owens?
Yes.
Mayor Pixley?
Yes.
Councilmember Lucido?
Yes.
Item F is the adoption of resolution 1853 for special assessment resolution number 2 related to sidewalk and driveway approach, district number 180. Do we have a motion?
Madam Mayor, I motion to adopt resolution number 1853, which directs the deputy city clerk to give notice of the completion of the special assessment role for sidewalk and driveway approach Special Assessment District Number 180, schedule a public hearing before the City Council and the Board of Special Assessors on March 6, 2018, and request publication of the notice.
Support.
Move and support. Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Councilmember Lucido?
Yes.
Councilmember Kleinfeld?
Yes.
Mayor Pixley?
Yes.
Councilmember DeMonico?
Yes.
Councilmember Owens?
Yes.
Item G is the bid award for mowing and lawn maintenance services. This is pretty well identified, but someone may have some questions, and Mr. Altimus is here to answer every one of those.
Yes, I had a question on letting Ed's two men in a mower lawn service.
Yes.
They're taking on Division 2, correct?
Yes.
And I was looking at promo is $45 a week, and Ed's is $140 a week. I wondered why we chose the $140 instead of the promo $45.
The 45 was one building.
Okay,
He only bid one building.
okay,
The rest of it is a complete bid of the division.
okay,
And I award bids by division, as you can see.
okay.
So how, is it not in the bid document? There's not just one line to do it if we're summarizing it like this?
It's broken down by building, so I know which building, so I can split out the costs, but it does indicate that, and the gentleman knew that. He just, it's, he works in the area and he wanted to bid on that one.
Okay.
I explained that to him at the bid time, too.
Well, Madam Mayor, I'll motion to award the bid for mowing services for Division 1 DDA at the unit price of $38 per week to Ed's two men and a mower, and authorize the acting city manager to execute all necessary documents related to this bid award.
Support.
Do you want to do each one separately, or do you want them all together?
I would like them separate because I have separate contracts.
Right.
So if something goes wrong, I can take care of that.
You did say Division 1 just now, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, you
Okay.
did.
Hey, please call the roll.
Councilmember DeMonico?
Yes.
Councilmember Kleinfeld?
Yes.
Councilmember Lucido?
Yes.
Councilmember Owens?
Yes.
Mayor Pixley?
Yes. And the second item is for Division 2 in the city buildings.
Madam Mayor, I will make a motion to award the bid for mowing services for Division 2 city buildings at the unit price of $140 per week to Ed's two men and a mower, and authorize the acting city manager to execute all necessary documents related to this bid award.
Support?
We have move and support. Please call the roll.
Councilmember Kleinfeld?
Yes.
Councilmember DeMonico?
Yes.
Councilmember Lucido?
Yes.
Councilmember Owens?
Yes.
Mayor Pixley?
Yes. And then we need a motion for Division 3.
Sure, Madam Mayor, I'll motion to award the bid for mowing services for Division 3, medians and roadways, at the total cost of $6,672 per year to American Dream Landscaping, and authorize the acting city manager to execute all necessary documents related to this bid award.
Support.
Move and support. Any questions? Please call the roll.
Councilmember DeMonico?
Yes.
Councilmember Kleinfeld?
Yes.
Councilmember Owens?
Yes.
Mayor Pixley?
Yes.
Councilmember Lucido?
Yes.
The next item is for Division Number 4. Do we have a motion?
Madam Mayor, I will make a motion to award the bid for mowing services for Division 4 city properties tax reversion at the unit price of $91 per week to American Dream Landscaping, and authorize the acting city manager to execute all necessary documents related to this bid award.
Support?
Move and support. Please call the roll.
Councilmember Kleinfeld?
Yes.
Councilmember DeMonico?
Yes.
Councilmember Owens?
Yes.
Mayor Pixley?
Yes.
Councilmember Lucido?
Yes.
And the next one is for Division Number 5. Do we have a motion, please?
Sure, Madam Mayor, I'll award the bid for mowing services for Division 5, high weed and grass ordinance violations, to Ed's two men and a mower, and American Dream Landscaping at the unit price of $15 per mow, and authorize the acting city manager to execute all necessary documents related to this bid award.
Support.
Move and support. Please call the roll.
Well, I gotta say, this is quite a deal.
Mm-hmm.
Do we do for sure just Just, like, say the grass gets to a foot long instead of 6 inches, still just $15, or? Okay. Do you stay right to this?
They've done this before, so they know what they're getting into, so.
Right.
And, but, yeah, that was the bid. I looked at them kind of suspiciously when I read the bid, and they were grinning, but, you know, those guys.
I have
But, yeah,
cut
they'll
many
live with it.
lawns, and that is, that's quite a deal.
Yeah.
Please call the roll.
Councilmember DeMonico?
Yes.
Councilmember Lucido?
Yes.
Mayor Pixley?
Yes.
Councilmember Kleinfeld?
Yes.
Councilmember Owens?
Yes.
All right. Item H is the budget amendment, BA 18-01. Mr. Blum, do you want to explain this?
If you don't mind, if I can inquire a 5-minute recess before we get started on the budget amendment, please.
Okay. Is that all right with everybody?
Fine with me.
Okay.
Do we vote on that?
Pardon?
Do we vote to take a recess, or can you just?
No, I think we can take a recess.
Okay.
So we'll meet back at 10 to 9.
It was.
It was.
It was loud.
You should have.
Yeah, it was loud.
I'm like, the whole thing we looked at was.
Any other time I have to, what?
Yeah, like we gotta go, we just recreate the whole thing and then bring it back where there's no safety issue.
Our city council meeting, it is now 8 minutes to 9. So we're at the point where we're discussing budget amendments for BA 18-01. And Mr. Blum, I had asked you if you would care to discuss the budget amendment.
Yes. Go through some of the highlights and lowlights. You'll see, first of all, in the general fund, in every category, there is an increase in revenues, except for, once again, we've had to reduce the court revenue by $530,000. They are tracking even lower than last year, which was a bad year. I haven't been able to get any answers out of the court. Originally, they were trying to say it was less tickets out of PD. That doesn't appear to be completely accurate. Then there was some discussion on the ACLU pay or stay and where they're doing payment arrangements. But apparently they're not collecting on the payment arrangements if that's what they're doing. I mean, when people walk out the door, they aren't coming back to make their payments apparently. But I have not gotten a clear message out of the court on what's going on over there. December being an example, the funds that came in from the court were $86,000. We have never had a month that low since I've been here in 15 years. So, I guess it's something that needs to be looked at, but for right now, they are on track. It may even come in lower than what this budget amendment is going to reflect. On the the expenditure side, there's some miscellaneous things here or there. You do see an increase in the attorney expenses of $300,000 for the additional DOJ cost. There's, if you remember on the audit, we had the $3,380,000 for the bond refinancing that we did not have budget for because we thought it was being recorded one place and it was required to be recorded in the general fund. This is the final adjustment for the bond refinancing and the payoff of the debt in October that is being recorded in the general fund. So we're getting the budget amendment in now so we don't have a shortfall. Yeah, there's a net increase of $378,000 to reflect the various union contracts that were settled after the budget had been implemented. And that is across all departments, police, fire, and general employees. So that is a total number. Let's see. Health and dental and optical is up. As a self-funded unit, they give us equivalent premiums at the beginning of each year, but we actually have to send into Blue Cross the amount that is necessary to cover the claims. We have had some large claims this year out of the employee group, and that's just a reflection of the money that had to be sent to Blue Cross to cover those. It's unfortunate. I mean, one a year, a big claim is kind of what the group experiences in the past. We've actually had 3 large claims this year, large being anything over $100,000. So you'll see that. Don't see a lot else that's all that interesting. In the major streets, we do have an increase in revenues of $300,000. Which is the additional state revenues we're getting with the change in the taxes at the state level. And that's allowing us to reduce the amount of fund balance that we're going to use out of major streets this year. Local street, we have an increase of $150,000 for the additional taxes, which will be very helpful when we try to do some street projects. Nothing big there, nothing big there. Chapter 20 drain, that is an area, we set our budget, well, like right now, we're already starting our budgeting process. The budget is adopted in June. We don't get our Chapter 20 information usually till August with an October 1st fiscal year for that particular group. The county is doing some major activity within the Chapatin Basin, and this reflects that increase for this year. Next year will be even higher, so that's kind of a heads up. When we get into budget, you will see some large numbers. The drain maintenance line this year is about $1.1 million is what we budgeted. You can see it's a $378,000 increase. Next year, that number is going to be over $2 million. Once they get through this initial phase, then the county will start ratcheting back on their spending. But for the next couple of years, this is going to be kind of ugly.
This doesn't include that 100,000 that was just approved last.
Correct, that was not in their budget.
So that's over and above this 378.
So it just depends when they pay it and when they're going to bill us for it. It may show up in the April invoice. It may not be till next fiscal year. So.
Well, they're starting the work. So,
Well, they established the budget of what they're going to bill the communities
right.
as of October 1st. So they'll either take it out of their fund balance or they'll just roll it into next year's apportionment.
Michael, wasn't that extra $100,000, that was for the planning for the canal expansion, wasn't it?
Yeah, planning and some like exploration. They weren't sure exactly what they wanted to do. It was between 1 and 2. I think it was more closer to 150.
But I think they're starting now.
Yes, I think they're going ahead full speed.
Let's see, equipment replacement. You'll see the $165,000 adjustment for the Parks Garage roof that had been approved back in June. We're actually taking that out of fund balance. That is a place where we build up a little bit of a balance for projects like this from our antenna lease revenues. And so this is one that it had not originally been budgeted, but we're able to take it out of fund balance so it doesn't impact anything within general fund. And the rest of it's all minor, so. Oh, well, healthcare accumulation, that's a good one. You'll see an increase in the income of $350,000. That's, again, the investments for the healthcare are doing very well. And that'll help our unfunded liability as we go forward. So unless anybody has any questions, that's all I need to highlight on it.
I had one minor question. The background checks
Yes.
were $400 each. You have $1,500. Should
That is the amount that Ms. Lentz gave me.
Didn't we did a $400 background check, I thought, on each. I recall that being the number.
She
No?
probably assumed when they put that through initially that maybe that there was gonna be an additional person or something. And she really didn't know, how extensive the background search was gonna end up being too, so.
Well, I thought he just had the different levels and we picked one.
No, I don't think we have the invoice yet, so that was an approximate figure.
Yeah. I just got it last week from Linda, so,
At that amount,
yep,
at the 1,500?
that was what she had requested as an amendment.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm not worried about that. The bill will just be under what we
Right,
put aside
and
for
it
it.
might have
so.
been an estimate on her part too, because they
Yeah,
may
we're not
include
done
like
yet.
taxes on
thought-
that 400.
Randy, aren't you saying you received the bill, not the?
No, I received a request.
Oh.
What we do on budget amendments is see if any departments need anything that isn't obvious. I go through the numbers and see where I need to adjust, but then if anybody else has anything, they let me know. Linda let me know she needed 1,500.
Well, I just figured on this one, they're already complete and we've received them, so I didn't know if
Yeah,
we haven't even been billed yet.
vendors aren't always as prompt billing as you'd think they'd be.
Well, I understand that, but.
Any further questions? All right, we need a motion, please.
Madam Mayor, I'll motion to approve fiscal year 2017-2018 budget amendment BA 18-01 as presented by the Finance Director.
Support.
With support, please call the roll.
Councilmember DeMonico?
Yes.
Councilmember Kleinfeld?
Yes.
Councilmember Lucido?
Yes.
Councilmember Owens?
Yes.
Mayor Pixley?
Yes. And when do we expect our next one? May?
Next
April?
budget amendment will be in June.
Okay. All right, and then we have the project summary report for the Eastpointe Parks building roofing. So we would need a motion to receive and file.
Yes, Madam Mayor, I motion to receive and file the Eastpointe Parks Building Roofing Project Summary Report.
Support?
Been moved and supported. Mr. Marucci, did you have anything you'd like to say about this?
I do not, Mayor.
All right, please call the roll.
I did have one question, though. I think this has happened in the past. The change orders are more than the contingency.
Correct.
And I thought we've always agreed that even if there was any contingency, it'd go back to council. I thought I recall that saying, we've said that on other bids. I don't know if this specific one, I guess. But it's also higher than the contingency we even approved. I mean, to me, that's frustrating. That's all I wanted to say, I guess, but I don't know what the rest of council thought. Or am I missing something?
No, contingencies are usually not brought back because it's within the scope. That's why I believe that this one looks like it was equivalent to 10%. That's just normally discretion that you grant us for the contingency amount.
I think what Cardy's saying is
I
it exceeded
I understood it. Yes.
That's the main point, but at least, well, we don't, I guess I didn't even know about that until we received this report, which is great. Thank you, Mr. Marucci, for putting these together because we didn't have this before. This would have happened and we wouldn't have even known before, so.
But when does the contractor give you the price for the additional contingency? During the work, when he recognizes the fact that there's additional work that has to be done, does he calculate the amount of money at that particular time? And can he stop his work to come back to council for approval? In this case, the contingency was a certain amount, and it's a minimum over and above what we allow.
I mean, if it's within the contingency, that's fine to do without at least let us know or something. I thought we've agreed to before. One we requested, looks like, and then because it says the one's owner requested, and then the other one is added value. I don't know what.
So the change order was 14,300 and the contingency is 12,800. So that minimal difference, you wanted them to come back to council and let you know?
Well, I thought the whole point of a contingency was that's what we thought the maximum change would be, and then we still went above and beyond that. You know what
Okay.
I'm saying? It's not like shouldn't be like an estimate and then, 1,500 more is fine. That's all I'm saying. It was approved on June 8th. We approved the
So we need a vote.
contract.
That should have been shown.
I have a motion and a second.
Please call the roll.
Councilmember Owens,
Yes.
Councilmember Lucido,
Yes.
Councilmember Kleinfeld,
Yes.
Mayor Pixley.
Yes.
Councilmember DeMonico.
Yes.
All right, next item is the city manager hiring process. So you've all been given the reviews of the 3 candidates. What is it you'd like to do next?
I'm pretty open to whatever council wants to do going forward. I thought it might be most cost-effective to kind of rank 1 to 3 who we want to interview and actually do one at a time, because if we decide the first one's it and we don't need to go any further, we could save the expense of flying someone out. If we did that, I would suggest open meetings, obviously, but perhaps not post the videos online so that there's still the element of fairness. But I don't feel that strongly about that, so if someone else feels different, then, I'm fine with that too.
Yeah, I think that's a fine idea, as long as we all do agree on the same candidate for 1 and then 2 and then 3, of course.
So, Mr. DeMonico, what is it you'd like to do?
Sure. Invite Mr. Ayers out for a weekend, like you're saying then, and I think we even could have over the weekend maybe a time where the community could come out and maybe meet him and, in person, maybe before or after, like a formal meeting, meeting/interview with him.
Want to scare him? No, nothing. No, that sounds fine.
All right, Ms. Owens.
You were talking about, of course, numbering them 1 to 3, of course. You want to interview all 3 of them, or why we just can't interview our top?
Only if we interview one and then say, nope, on to the next. If we don't have to interview all 3, we feel very happy with the first person we interview, then I don't want to spend the money to fly everyone out here. So that's why I propose that sort of step-by-step process.
So who would you like to invite first?
Ayers would be first for me
Lucido.
as
Ayers
well.
would be my first choice.
Ayers.
Ayers.
All right,
Do you feel the same way?
I feel the same way.
And then I also wanted to throw out there that I think we should ask him to come possibly for 3 days, because if we do interview one day and deliberations, maybe we can just start in contract negotiations the next day. Because we also need to know if that's going to work out, to find out if that salary expectations can line up with what we're willing to offer.
I would agree with that. Would you like him to bring a contract or a proposed contract, or would you like to provide a proposed contract?
I think we should provide it.
Either is
agree.
fine by me. We obviously have materials to go off of that we can work with, so I'm happy either way.
All right, and would you like this to happen soon? Like,
Yes. I would like to do it as soon as possible. I think probably over a weekend. I'm
to
assuming
come
that.
in, how about if we set an interview for a Friday?
Mhm.
And then have if we have to negotiate a contract, or if we say that, we could do that on a Saturday morning?
That would be fine by me.
Ms. Lucido?
Yep, that sounds fine by me.
Ms. Owens?
That's fine with me.
Is it a Friday evening?
Friday evening?
Or
We,
when was
I mean, I would be open for an evening interview, because that way he can fly in the morning anyway, so if that works better for everyone.
It could even be earlier. That's like
I like
5.
a morning interview or something. I don't.
I can tell you, it takes about 5 hours to fly from Asheville. And it takes 12 hours to drive, so. And it's a long time because of the schedules, and the flights very often get canceled coming out of Asheville, but, okay. So, Ms. Lentz, are you there? Do you think we can arrange that?
Are you saying for this weekend?
if it was possible. Okay. Is that possible? for everybody?
That's fine. The only weekend I have coming up is the March 17th. Would be very difficult for me.
Okay.
I'm supposed to be in New York that weekend, so.
Okay.
But hopefully you can do it sooner
Lucky
than that.
you. All right.
Yeah.
All right, so bottom line is we're going to invite Mr. Ayers to come as soon as possible for an interview and negotiation of a contract. Correct?
Correct.
Yes.
All right.
And now, I guess we also need 18 hours for a special meeting, right? For Open Meeting Act requirements. So if we
We have time. We could,
well, right, but we'd have to post for
By
Friday
Thursday.
and Saturday then, assuming there will be a Saturday. And then we can cancel if there's no Saturday.
right.
Right, that makes sense? Oh, like 5 was fine for me if everyone wanted to do it earlier, if that can work. or-
I'm open all day on Friday.
I'm open all the time on Friday.
5 works then.
Okay.
Okay. I know every single flight coming out of there, and I can tell you, there's one at 8 o'clock, there's one at 6 o'clock in the morning.
So we're paying for his flight and room, and
Yes.
so do we choose, or is he doing first class and staying at the Hilton, or how does that work? Does Linda, you
Linda will
choose?
make arrangements.
He'll make his own flight reservations, we'll tell him where to stay.
Do we give him a budget, or we just say,
They've never flown first class, I mean, that we've had.
Well, I think that'd be a good indication
Yeah,
for us.
yeah.
Let's let him make that decision.
hopefully, and we are preparing, how much we will be paying him, correct, a salary?
When we discuss his contract, yeah. we
That was the
discussed that at
contract
that time.
negotiation.
Okay, okay.
All right. Payroll and bills.
Madam Mayor, I will make a motion to approve payment of the bills in the amount of $2,527,086.12.
Do we have support?
Support.
Any questions? Please call the roll.
Councilmember Kleinfeld?
Yes.
Councilmember Owens?
Yes.
Mayor Pixley?
Yes.
Councilmember DeMonico?
Yes.
Councilmember Lucido?
Yes.
All right. The next one is our second hearing of the public. Does anyone wish to be heard? Mr. Creech?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Earlier, like I said, I'm really concerned about our parks. And the one that jumps right out in front of me, and I've discussed it many times, and I guess I can't get over it because I'm still, like I said, I requested the blueprints for the walkway on Spender Park. Materials used, grade of asphalt, thickness, use of existing base, the distance, and I just put down there the use of taxpayer dollars. My answer that I got back through the city wasn't too extensive. The answer was, please be advised on the 13th day of June 2016, you submitted a FOIA request for the following public records, the one I just read you. And the answer was, this project was a design, build, maintenance activity. That's it. No blueprints, no nothing. We built a walkway in a park. Someone had to have something on his mind, or there had to be something that was done through the city, or it wasn't involuntary. Somebody had to have something. Anyway, and I said, all I asked was just to get some maintenance done to this parkway. It's not going to happen. As far as I know, it wasn't even done. But that was back in 16, too. I have the dates right here, you know what I'm saying? That was done of June 13th, 2016. The cracks were there then. Now they're getting longer, they're getting bigger. It's just not this park. It's all the parks. Like I said, I can read here, you know, in the one I want to come down to, it's got Parks Commission, the authority in the cities
shall establish a Parks Commission composed of one staff respective from each of the respective parties, which is East Detroit and Roseville, to monitor the joint use of the designated parklands and facilities for the duration of this agreement. I've asked, who do we contact? We have no Parks and Recreation Department at all in the city of Eastpointe. We have RARE that takes care of our activities. We have a Parks maintenance garage. We have no Parks and Recreation. I've asked for this. We have no committee. We have no one that monitors or tells us, like I said before too, no one goes in there and checks our fences, which are a disgrace. No one goes, our horseshoe pits, they're literally a disaster. Our volleyball hasn't been, and then we have beautiful, our shuffleboards, the equipment we had that was over at Spindler, when they redid Spindler, that turned up missing. We have 6 shuffleboard courts that were painted beautifully with no equipment in them. And this has gone on since 2011. 2011, RARE was created to save our parks. It created a monster as far as I'm concerned, because our parks still belong to the city of Eastpointe's residents. And the gentleman was here before too. I love it when he says, what kind of amenities do we put in the middle of 9 Mile Road or Gratiot in this boulevard so these residents will have them? What kind of amenities are you giving to the residents so they can use their parks? I am serious. We don't have water fountains in our parks. In some of our parks, we don't even have playground equipment. Other parks, our playground equipment, so the inside of them, they're run over. The other ones, we need the equipment power washed. Go out and take a good look, people. First of all, we're way under land use for our parks. If you really want to read some information that is the greatest in the world, get this thing, this draft right here.
You have 30 seconds.
For the Recreation Committee, and start reading it. Because I said, with spring right around the corner, please tell me who I can contact right here on this Parks Commission. We don't even have that I know of. We don't have a Parks and Recreation Committee. We don't have a commission. We have it name only by RARE. And we have a garage. I thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Does anyone else wish to be heard? Mr. Duran?
Sorry about that.
Thank you, Mayor Pixley, Council. Once again, I'm talking about the DOJ. Basically, the city of Eastpointe is being sued because they picked the wrong candidate, because you didn't appoint the right person, is the way I look at it and the way I see it. And to me, every person gets a vote. That's the way it should go. You vote, whoever gets the most, you win. It's basically pretty simple. But they want to shift around things and break up the city to where a certain area has leverage over this area and that area. For me, they want to try to, kind of like a casino is the way I look at it. The casino always has the upper hand on the rest of everyone else that goes there. The house wins. That's where that rule comes from. Because they mostly win. Every once in a while you may win or two, but they mostly win. And that's the way they're trying to stack the deck so that they get the person that they want. I ran twice. I lost twice. I'm a male. There was other black males that ran. Now, do I have the right to sue the city of Eastpointe because I didn't win? I don't think so. As I looked at it, my loss, I said to myself, what did I do wrong? I didn't say what the voters did wrong. The voters didn't do anything wrong. Whether they were racist or not, they all get a vote. For whatever reason, they decide to vote a person in, whether it's because they like their shoes or they don't, or they wear a tie or they don't. You know, they got various of reasons why they vote. Some of it don't make any sense to me, but they got a right to do that. But that's why it's called free and fair elections, because you're free to vote whatever reason you want to. But they're trying to tell you, you voted for the wrong person. And I don't look at it that way, like I said. I look at it as, did I get my message out there enough? Did I talk to enough people? Did I have the right stuff on my card? Did
You
I
have 30
meet
seconds.
the right people? You know, and that's what it's all about. It's not about, you know, making sure I get the outcome that I want to happen. It's whether they, as a collective of people, decide, we want you there. And that's why you are all sitting there, because they decided. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else wish to be heard? Anyone else? Seeing none, the hearing of the public is closed. Move to mayor and council reports. We'll start with Mr. Kleinfeld.
All right. Well, I'm happy that we are all agreeing on moving forward. That was a much more painless conversation than I thought it was going to be for city manager. I do want to say, Mr. Dern, I'm glad that you keep coming to meetings and that you've joined a commission since the election. I think sometimes we see people run and then disappear, and so it speaks volumes that you are sticking around. So I appreciate that. I did want to end on, I wanted to talk about something that I brought up at a previous council meeting regarding the AFG funds and the firefighters. I wanted to apologize to Chief, I'm going to mess it up, Pokropowicz, Lawrence. Huh?
Lawrence Folkerts?
Oh, I'm sorry, I have the wrong name.
Is that who you meant?
Preposterous. You wanted to,
Yeah.
the fire chief in St. Clair Shores.
Well, I was going to address both of them. Here's my spiel on that. During that, I had done a lot of research trying to figure out how the numbers worked out, and I was looking at, I think, some information that was different than was in the packet, and when I was asking questions, we were just not connecting, and I got a little bit frustrated with that. I did not mean to disparage at all our firefighters who helped with the grant or St. Clair Shores for administering the grant. And because I had brought that up publicly and I had concerns, I just want to kind of clear that up so everybody knew. In terms of that particular grant, I now understand with certainty that FEMA is the one that set the amount that every city got. And it was hard for me to understand that that's exactly what happened. So just wanted to put that out there, and that is all I have for tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. This is Lucido.
I just have a couple of quick announcements to make. On Thursday is State of the City. I hope to see everyone there at 11 o'clock at Eastpointe Manor. Hopefully everyone has their tickets. And also, the Military Museum is having a flag fundraiser on Thursday. They're trying to raise money for a new flagpole, and that includes pizza and salad, and it's from 5 to, I believe, 8 p.m. And that will be it for this evening.
Thank you. Ms. Owens.
I'm glad to see everyone comes out. Obviously, the same people all the time, but that's good. I went to a PACE meeting today. That was my first PACE meeting. People who don't know what PACE is, it's Police and Community for Equality. They've been in Eastpointe for several years. I think it's 20 years, they said.
Mm-hmm.
I know the mayor, it's 20 years, Mayor?
Correct.
Okay. And I know it was a really good meeting. They talked about, actually, you brought up mental health. A lot of people brought up mental health in the meeting. And I was telling them at the library, everyone knows I'm on the library commission. Actually, I'm trying to get people in the community trained about mental health. As you can see, in Florida, a lot of people see a lot of kids react to things that's going on in their life, dealing with mental health, and bringing the understanding of it in the community to let us understand that everybody most people have mental health. They look like us, they talk like us, and you don't know what that person is going on in their mind or in their life. And so, so we're also doing that. So we're gonna bring mental health programs with that. And February 27th is the fundraiser for the library. Hopefully everybody comes out to the Cloverleaf. The Cloverleaf is actually giving 20% of the proceeds, which is a lot, to the Friends of the Library. So come out, eat pizza, and find out about some new programs that's going on in the library. I went to Action Impact to do some shooting, of course. You know, you guys know I'm a police officer. I love to shoot. And it's a young lady there that teaches the shooting there, and it was a lot of things that I learned. Went to the police academy for 4 to 6 months. And it's a lot of stuff that she taught there that I didn't even know as a police officer, that they didn't even teach in a police academy. And I told her I would love her to work with us at the Drug Coalition, because when you have drugs, you have guns. And so to talk to the kids about being, you know, about the safety of guns, and going to the superintendent, going to the schools, talking about gun safety. And I also want to ask the chief, Kaiser, I want to know, do we have anything as far as some type of training, as far as active shooter training in the schools? So if an incident happens, the teachers know what to do, the students know what to do.
The training that we provide is for our officers only at this time.
Okay.
If the school were interested, I do have some instructors that we could send over there to help out.
Okay, yeah, I would like you to, if you don't mind, get with the schools if you can, because when I talk to the community police officer, I think that's why it's really something we can come up with later on in the next budget, getting a community police officer. When I spoke to the one in St. Clair Shores, they actually have done training with the elementary schools and the high schools in St. Clair Shores about active shooters. And I think we should do that. I don't think we should wait till something happens. I think we should be proactive in that. And like I said, the young lady said she'll come and talk to the students about it. She'll get more active. So as a community, as a family community, I think we should be proactive for our families. And last but not least, tomorrow is my birthday. I have to tell y'all that again. I know I told y'all that last meeting, but I am a February baby, so tomorrow is my birthday. I'm absolutely doing anything, so that's the best birthday, to sit in the bed and listen to the rain and watch Netflix. But that's all I have today.
Well, happy birthday, Monique.
Thank you.
It's my brother's birthday today, so happy birthday
Happy
to my
birthday to
brother,
your brother.
Adam. Mr. Duran, Clarence, thank you for coming out all the time. It's very clear you put a lot of thought into your 3 minutes up here at the hearing of the public. I do appreciate hearing everything you have to say on the Department of Justice lawsuit. I think it's very good and very thoughtful for sure. And actually, I was asked the same questions you were. I was given that list of folks that had grabbed a petition, and they asked me, is this person black, is this person white? And just as you, I was slightly embarrassed because a couple names sounded familiar. There was Brizendine, there's a company in the city. I don't know the gentleman, but I didn't know any of the names they actually asked, just as you didn't know them. So, and then I realized they were coming to the conclusion that you made after they asked about all those people on the list. We had the landscape awards. Those were very good. Try and win next year, everyone in the audience. Walt, we'll get you next year. We do that every February. We look at everyone's lawn. So for anyone listening, the Beautification Commission will come out and check your place if it looks nice, and hopefully you can win an award. We give real nice signs. They changed the signs up this year. I think they look real good. You can proudly display that in front of your house then. And then the steak and shrimp was really good too. I think Mr. Albright thought it was very, very good also. Alyssa and I got to have dinner with our city attorney. So steak and shrimp is always good. I definitely look forward to that event. I think it's pretty much the only time I ever eat steak. I never, for some reason, eat steak. That's the one time a year. And then, let's see. Also, this is a pretty neat event. On March 3rd, David Bonnier will be in town. He has written another book, and if you don't know, he's a prior congressman. He was the majority whip in Congress and minority whip when in the minority. 2 p.m. at the Clinton Macomb Library on March 3rd, he'll be talking about his new book, Whip, talks about the whole time he was in Congress. His dad was a mayor of Eastpointe, Ed Bonnier. So March 3rd, 2 p.m. if you're interested. It's the Southern Clinton Macomb Library, so that's the one on Gratiot on the west side up in Clinton Township. And then, State of the City is on Thursday, and I already mentioned my brother's birthday. That's all I had, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
All right, if anyone thinks that this council made a really quick decision on the final candidate or the candidate for city manager, you would be misinformed, because we've all been studying, reviewing, going over all the applications and the resumes, and this weekend we went through all the background checks. It was a busy weekend to get to this point where we are today. So hoping that the interview goes well on Friday, and that we can have a number of people come for the open meeting as well. We would be dead if we did not inform the general public that tomorrow night is the AK homeowners meeting over at Pleasant View School at 7 p.m. I'm not sure who the speaker would be, but that would be really nice. Tonight was a trivia contest. I wish our library representative would go back and tell him that council would love to participate, and please will you do it on another night besides on a council night?
We talked about that because I want to go.
Because there are at least 3 other Tuesdays generally in a month, and it would be really nice if they could schedule it on a Tuesday when we don't have a council meeting. That would be very nice.
I told her all 4 of us, those who can't come, we'll be on teams, council against.
Because it would be nice to compete
We were
against.
against each other at one time.
Council against the Department of Justice.
So if you have the opportunity, I would really strongly suggest that you go out and meet Mr. Bonnier. He's a very interesting person. His last book, The East Side Kid, talked a great deal about living in the city of East Detroit and his father's role. The swimming pool and the reservoir were the result of Dave's father, who pushed for that. He said that when he lived in Hamtramck, they had 2 swimming pools, and if they could have 2 swimming pools in Hamtramck, they could have 1 big one here. And so that's how we got our swimming pool over at Kennedy Park. It took him almost his whole entire time as mayor to get that pool, but he was a well-liked person, and then from here he went to be the county commissioner. So it was really, really very active. And I really enjoyed the book. I thought Dave did a great job on writing that book. Mr. Creech, have to go back and talk about the Parks and Rec Commission. I know you're aware that when RARE was formed for the sole purpose that without RARE, we were not going to have recreation at all. And so we formed RARE for recreation purposes. The parks, we contracted out for the maintenance, but at the time, we didn't have all the money to put into the parks that we would have liked. So you have to make some tough decisions. You didn't want to sell off the park properties because you know that the economy is going to return. But at some point in time, we intended to go back to the Parks and Rec Commission. It's not been completely disbanded. In fact, Mr. Marucci and Joe and Dan Hogan, who are our current representatives on RARE, just met 2 weeks ago over with Scott Atkins because they kept their Parks and Rec Commission, and we wanted to know how they do it. They only meet on a quarterly basis. They don't go around and inspect the parks, but things are brought to them and then they discuss and come up with some solutions. So it does work out, and we intend to do that now that we have a little bit more foot on the ground. So we're well aware of the fact that we need to spend some money and some time in our parks. So give us a little bit of a time, because we're in that process. And by the way, we're looking for people to be on that Parks and Rec Commission. So if you all know somebody that would like to be involved, that's another good way. I believe.
I think
how
you know
many-
one person.
Did we decide last time they had seven commissioners on it?
They do. They do in Roseville, and I believe ours also calls for either 7 or 9. I think it's actually 9 is what our current ordinance calls for.
So there was no charter amendment to get rid of the Parks and Rec Commission. It's still there, and we can activate it again now that we have a little bit more resources. Memorial Day Parade Committee, we met on Saturday. We're going to meet again in 2 weeks. I think it's coming along good. We will be raffling off Lions tickets to raise some funding, so we'll go on that. The cruise, we will be sending out information for cars and for sponsors coming up this next week. So the cruise is coming along really well. We're really excited about it this year. It's the 20th year, and we're going to make the Tiger Cats as our grand marshals. So Tiger Cats have been around for about 65 years, and really, really a solid group of opportunity for kids to play football. So excited about that. All right, I'll entertain a motion to go into closed session.
Madam Mayor, I'll motion to go into closed session for pending litigation with the Department of Justice.
We have support.
Support.
Please call the roll.
Councilmember DeMonico?
Yes.
Councilmember Owens?
Yes.
Mayor Pixley?
Yes.
Councilmember Lucido?
Yes.
Councilmember Kleinfeld?
Yes.
Into closed session at 9:30.